Hi, Peter Jones, Chartered Surveyor, author and property investor, and in this video we're going to continue thinking about how to add value to our properties, what we were calling forced appreciation, and the most simple way is by way of a simple refurb. So how are we going to guarantee that we're actually going to add value to our property? Well, the foundational principle is to know our area inside out and to know our target market. So for example, sometimes I'm asked by people, well, Peter, what works will actually add value to my property? What are the works I should be doing to add value to my property? And the honest answer is, I do not know. Why don't I know? Because it depends on so many different factors. Principally, it depends upon your target market. It depends upon what your strategy. Are you going to be doing the property up to keep it, to rent it out, or are you going to be doing it up to sell it on? In which case that would probably require different types of work. And it all depends upon where you're located. And in some areas, some works will add value, and in other areas, those works won't add value. So you need to understand your target market. So for example, in the last video, I alluded to the fact that in my target area where I invest, my tenants expect and require gas-fired central heating. That might not be the case in your area. Your tenants may be quite happy with electric storage heaters. I don't know. And there are no blanket rules. So for example, sometimes I'll hear people saying conservatories never add value, or I'll hear somebody saying conservatories always add value. Which of those statements is correct? Well, neither, because it all depends upon what you're trying to achieve, where you're trying to achieve it, what your target market is. And we need to understand that. So the starting point for making any profit from refurbishing a property is to understand our market. Now, some of the things we'll be looking for is to understand the ceiling value in our particular street or area. The ceiling value is the maximum price that a property is going to go for. And it's quite hard to push through the ceiling value. Now, obviously, property prices rise over time, so it is possible in time to push through a ceiling value. But you need to be aware of it, because the chances are, unless you're doing a very specific type of refurb and you know your market inside out and you know the things which are going to push you through the ceiling value, you're probably going to get stuck at the ceiling value. And when you get stuck at the ceiling value, it doesn't matter how much extra work you do, you're not going to add any more value to the property. And every pound you spend on improvements after that point, once you get to the ceiling value, is just a waste, because you're not going to add any extra value. So we need to know that. As I say, you need to know what your strategy is. If you're going to do the property up to rent it out, you're going to be doing a different specification of works than if you're going to be selling the property on. And as I said in the last video, you're probably going to be buying properties in different areas as well. So you need to understand two sets of ceiling values. You need to understand the range of values in your area as well. You need to be able to buy the property cheaply enough, knowing that you can add value. So for example, I buy a lot of cheaper properties as buy-to-lets. Now, if I bought in an area where every property was, say, £100,000, it would be very, very difficult to add value and encourage a valuer to come around and revalue the property for refinancing purposes 6 months later and get them to value it at £150,000 if every property in the area sells for £100,000. So you want to find an area where there's a range of values. So the area which I invest in, if I was to tell you where it is, and if you went on to Rightmove or Zoopla or one of the other property portals to see what the property asking prices are at the moment, they range probably from about £40,000 at the very bottom of the market up to about £80,000 for a two-bedroom property. That's a great range. If I can buy at sort of £40,000, £50,000, I can quite easily add enough value, or at least do the works to persuade a valuer to value the property at £70,000 to £80,000. Why do I want to do that? Because if I can do that, it means I can get a chunk of my money back out, enough to cover the costs of the refurb, plus a bit extra, which is always a good thing to do. So those are a few more thoughts on refurbing properties. If you want to know a lot more about this, then I recommend my ebook, the Successful Property Renovators Workshop, which you can find on my website, www.thepropertyteacher.co.uk. Here's to successful property investing.